Kia ora, Markie the Demystifier here, and I'm returning to a series that I started long ago about social skills for people with autism, entitled Social Skills for Aspies and Askies. And if you want to know why I gave it that title, check out some of the earlier videos. There's a playlist so you can watch them all together. And this will be the 12th one, so we've done quite a few, really, more than I really thought I would do, which is cool. So obviously social skills, social fluency is a big issue for people who are on the autistic spectrum. So and I wanted to offer a kind of a very practical kind of guide, and saying the kind of things that, you know, like if there are only certain people that can kind of tell you've got bad breath. Well, I'm on the autistic spectrum myself, so I can kind of say it like it is. I haven't got to be delicate. Obviously sensitive. I'm always sensitive, but I haven't got to tiptoe over that with that fear of offending that somebody outside of this particular grouping, if they raise an opinion, they might make themselves vulnerable to criticism. So I don't have that fear. I might still make myself vulnerable to criticism, but I'm not going to live in fear of it. So before we go any further, please do all things that help me help you, get more videos out and get the word out. So this channel we cover all kinds of things, mainly retroactive jealousy, but a whole range of other things, lots of stuff on mental health, human condition, that kind of stuff, and some kind of completely frivolous tangential stuff as well that we do just to keep the videos turning, because to have a successful YouTube channel you have to keep putting output out, which doesn't make sense, and I don't like just doing stuff for the sake of it, so I'd rather do something kind of completely frivolous than scrape the barrel and try and make make an old favourite subject go a bit further. So yes, if you could please hit the like button and the little bell icon, and then you get notification of any videos that I put out in future. And if you can subscribe, and if you can comment, make a nice comment, or if you can just like, and if you really want to help, sign up on our Patreon channel. That really supports us. So what I want to talk about is a boring subject, quite literally. I want to talk about when we know that we are boring people, or maybe we don't know if we're boring people. I want to talk about when we are boring people, let's put it that way. And let's face it, Aspies and Askies, often we do, for a number of reasons. One is we have a special interest, often a subject that I'm trying to have my double chin because I'm not sitting at the required angle, and my chin, which I'm not particularly fat at the moment, but I'm looking kind of podgy under the chin, so I'm trying to hide my double chin, but then I realise it's becoming very conspicuous that I'm hiding my double chin, so I thought I might as well come clean and say that's what I'm doing. It's not working, so you're going to get me double chin, which I haven't really got a double chin, just in this position, honest. So yeah, we bore people because often we have pet subjects that we can talk about for hours and hours and hours, and are endlessly fascinating to us, but not to a lot of other people. If we're lucky, we've got other people that we can talk to that share the same special interest, but maybe we don't have that. And also we're not good at picking up on non-verbal communication and cues and stuff like that, so we don't necessarily know that we're boring people, but often we do. Often we kind of, there are kind of clues. If somebody's interested in a subject, they'll look animated, they will look at you, not all the time, but they'll a lot of their focus will be on you. They might be leaning slightly forward, they might be smiling, there'll be a lot of animation on their face. You might not be able to read what's going on the face, but there'll be movement on the face. If they're bored, their face will tend to go more still and stiff. They might look down, they might look away, they might and they won't maybe interject so much. So listening noise is like, oh really, that's interesting, oh right, okay, yeah, oh cool, nice, interesting. All those little words that people use, they might use those less, or they'll be less animated, there'll be less inflection in those words. So they'll be a little bit more dead sounding. And they will attempt often, and depending on how polite they are and how busy they are, they will attempt to end the conversation. And attempts to end conversation are usually quite obvious, so, right, I've got to go, or I need to be somewhere, things like that. Or they can be more subtle. Often they start more subtle and then become more obvious. So people, one of the body language channels that I follow talks about exit checking, which is more for kind of safety issues. But if somebody keeps looking towards where the door is, or where the exit is, that's a sign that they're thinking about moving away. And it could be usually through it's for a sense of fear, but it can be because you're boring the pants off them. So are they looking towards the door? People don't very often yawn, because that's that would probably be perceived as quite rude. So people probably wouldn't yawn, but they might yawn if you're really if you're really doing a number on them and they're really, really bored. Then they might not be able to help it. It might be a very genuine kind of yawn. So it's important to keep an eye out for these things, and I don't think we can, sort of say, oh, well, I don't understand all that. I'm on the spectrum. I think we have a responsibility, and we have a duty to a civic and human duty to attend to these things to the best of our ability. Our ability might not be very high, but we have a duty to attend to that. So I remember somebody on Radio 4, probably 50 years ago, was talking on the subject of boredom, and he said, we forgive the people who bore us, but we never forgive the people that we bore, which I thought was really interesting. I wish I knew who that was so I could credit them. So nobody likes to think that they're boring. It's one of the things we really, really don't want to kind of admit to ourselves. So we'll go to great lengths to kind of suppress this. One of the strategies that people often adopt, people on the autistic spectrum, is if they get a whiff that they are boring somebody, then they will double down. they'll engage, in even more depth in the subject, and they'll go, if they're told a couple of jokes that don't work, that haven't gone down very well, they'll tell 5 more jokes that they think might go down better. Or if they've been banging on about Star Trek and the person hasn't been interested, they thought, well, I obviously haven't sold this person on Star Trek very well. I'll talk to them more about Star Trek. I'll engage them more. I'll be more animated. I'll be more enthusiastic. I'll tell them some of the best things about Star Trek, and then they'll be interested. No. If you're boring somebody, if you even think you're boring somebody, don't double down. So, and the other thing is, it doesn't work, is, am I boring you? Because people are polite. I say people are polite. I'm talking about my kind of UK culture, which is very polite, and now I'm in New Zealand Aotearoa culture, which is even more polite. So other cultures aren't so polite. Like Americans can be more direct, Australians even more direct. So that there are places in the world where people will answer you honestly if you say, "Am I boring you?" and they say, "Yes, you are." But most times, if you say I'm boring you, people say, "Oh, no," and then they double down on looking interested when they're not interested. So this whole process is a waste of everybody's time. What is the point of you banging on about something that you're interested in to somebody that's not interested in it? Get a YouTube channel and talk to yourself like I do. But don't bend some poor individual's ear. It's really not good. The thing about it is, it will make you unpopular. It will get you a reputation, and people will avoid you. People will run and hide when they see you, because they think, oh no, it's him, or they can't get away. They kind of always talk about X, and I think the other thing I think about, to add really, that I found often with people with autism of different kinds, and maybe other neurodiverse conditions is it's not necessarily talking about the same thing every time. But it's about getting in a bit of a groove that you can't get out of. So digging deep into a subject. And I guess a lot of people will have a repertoire. They'll have 5 key subjects that they kind of graduate to, and they'll move around between those. And it can be great to dig deep into a subject, and this is where the dislike of small talk, which I totally relate to, comes in. It's much more interesting to get really deep into a subject. But there's actually very few people that you can get into a subject in any depth with. They have to have a special interest in that topic. Most people are quite kind of superficial, and their interaction is primarily social, whereas I think as autistic people, our interaction is primarily interest based. So there's different things going on in the conversation. So don't dig down, don't dig in, dig deep, dig in when you think you're boring somebody. If you think you're boring somebody, then pause. It's important to pause in a conversation and see what happens. See if they jump in with something else, or if they add something to what you're talking about. See if they're showing an effort to continue the conversation. Think about your exit strategy. Whenever you get into a conversation, whenever you get in, think about how you're going to get out. What's your exit strategy for a conversation? Because I think as autistic people, again, very great generalization, but I think autistic people often are very good at exiting conversations necessarily. We don't see the cues for exiting. We don't often see the need for exiting. So think about how you're going to get out, because you are going to have to get out somehow, and it's better if you can get out while you're both still alive. Don't say, am I boring you, unless you're around somebody that's very blunt and is likely to give you an honest answer. But then do you really want to hear that answer? You probably don't. And I'll always allow for the fact that, the person you're talking to has probably got other things to do. Maybe really enjoying the conversation and wanting to stay, but you don't know that. There's a good chance, people are busy. People aren't always that interested to talk in depth. There's a good chance that they want to go and do other things. So think about, are they looking to exit? You're going to have to exit at some point. So plan an exit and do an exit, because you can't keep this conversation going forever. And it's probably better to end it after 5 minutes than it is after 40 minutes. And depending on the situation, of course, if you meet somebody for coffee, you go for a pint with a friend, you sit there, you're going to talk for as long as you want to talk. That's absolutely fine. But if you catch somebody in town and you're just having a chat, a chinwag, or at work, that's the other thing. I've had colleagues that have just rambled on sometimes for an excessive amount of time, and I'm just kind of thinking, I've got things to do, I can't, even if I'm enjoying the conversation, I become anxious, it becomes uncomfortable. So I think there are the main points that I wanted to make. I just want to throw something in that's a bit left field as well, and that is energy vampirism. Okay, so there are people that like to talk a lot because they like the subject and they get embroiled in the subject, and there are people that like to talk a lot because, although they don't know they're doing this, they're draining the very life force out of the people around them. And it sounds very woo-woo and mystic, but it happens. It happens all the time. And everybody that most people you talk to will relate to this if you explain it. They will know someone that drains their energy. So notice, if you are somebody that tends to, in a buttonhole was the word people used to use, engage somebody in conversations and treat your conversational partner like a hostage. You don't want to let them go. You want to keep them at all costs. Talk to them. Sometimes there's an energy exchange going on there, and you'll feel good. You'll have a natural payoff for that, though you won't associate it with the fact that you're taking their energy, and they'll feel exhausted. You can actually sometimes see people. I've seen this physically. People, you can actually see them go black under the eyes during the course of a 5-minute conversation, as somebody's draining their energy. So energy vampire, or psychic vampire as it's sometimes called, and often the process of that is done through boring people, the actual process of making people bored or hooking people in, or maybe a combination of the two, has an energy draining effect. So you don't have to take that's a bit woo-woo, you don't have to take my word, just ignore that last bit if that's a bit too woo-woo for you. But if you're interested in that side of it, I've done a video on that as well, so check out my video on energy vampirism. So it's nothing to do with, you know, Count Dracula and kind of pointy teeth. It's energy. You could say just an energy stealer or an energy drainer, really. That's a more a less dramatic, eldritch way of describing it. So I hope I haven't bored you. But the great thing about YouTube is you can just, you know, you don't have to be polite. You can just sign off at any point. Thank you for watching. Hopefully there'll be more in this series as I think of things. There may not be many more for a while, but there will be new stuff in other series, and we've got some exciting news for retroactive jealousy people coming up very soon, so I'll probably post another video on that. So thanks very much, Rangimarie, and this is me sticking my dirty great big thumb to switch the video off, because if you haven't realised already, this channel doesn't do slick, doesn't do kind of proper production or editing. It's shooting from the hip, rough and ready, all substance, no style. Thanks very much. Take care.